Alright, fuckers, welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to make a video before I went to bed, and it's pretty much talking about appearance maxing. And what do I mean about appearance maxing? Appearance maxing, but I looked at from BP Fitness, from everything I was looking at. Your looks are it's very objective, but the whole point of the subjective part is not that it's preference. It's basically a culture standard or certain things that hit your brain, you know. But looks are primarily the most, very, very most objective point. The reason why it's also subjective, but everything has some type of objective to it. That's the thing. Everything does. I believe a lot of things in the world, and not even just believe. I almost feel like I could say I know a lot of things in the world are pretty much primarily just objective. And I'm getting at is that, like a personal type, like, oh, I like a guy who's very edgy or very rugged. Well, objectively speaking, the reason why you concluded this idea instead of a feminine guy compared to another woman would want in their environment, you would get that because of, well, mostly you would get that, yeah, you would mostly get that because of based off of your environment, or you would get it from somewhere else. So the thing is, when you get older and certain things, you are literally meant to be balanced out. There is no such thing as, like you. there is no such thing as the opposite of that. Everything when you get older, everything should have a balance. There is always a creative side to it, or a stylistic side, and the whole thing is with the modeling industry, in the fashion industry. You gotta remember, people need to remember that they don't care about mogging and looking good. They care about their clothing brand. They care about having unconventional futures that would not be deemed normal in society, but could be pretty too. Their whole thing is bringing freaks, but making them also, hey, just because they're a freak or not normal can be beautiful, which is a good thing. I think they should normalize, like, hey, just because you don't see in your day-to-day norm, it's like, what the fuck? You don't need to be thinking in that closed-minded space, you know? And we live in a world where everything is free will, and a lot of things are a social part of the construct. And the thing is, people should try and survive off of the whole copy and paste factor. It is very important because it's a social survival instinct. People should do that. But the thing is, when you do every single thing a copy and paste, it's like you get rid of your individuality. I think there is objective principles that apply to everybody, but it needs to be also tailored to your individual personality. So what I'm getting at is, everybody has a dimorphic trait. Everybody has facial symmetry, angularity, misc, which is coloring. Everybody has, health cues, sexual cues, and so on, and how to dress. But the way you express, or what you wear, or what's on the slogan of the shirt, whatever the case is, that's your niche. Everything has an objective measurement and tool, but there is a niche, and it's a sign. So that's what I'll say. And I think the problem is that people got rid of individuality. We need to, like, tribal people or other people, we can connect to other tribes because they're like, okay, they look like me, but not too much. That's why African tribes from other tribes, they can be like, okay, I can understand. I feel a little comfortable. They're not too worried, but they know that they're still the enemy because of the clothes are different, or certain things, or the way they do stuff. So they have the individuality. And I'm not saying a person should be completely individual. That is a terrible thing. People want to be so niche that they're like the only one out there. It's like, why the fuck would you want to be the most only person out there? You look into the science, humans are social creatures. We have our individuality by meaning we have our own tribe. And yes, if you go into more specific that it's you and it gets more into more personally you, but the thing is a much bigger picture. When we look into science and we look into evolutionary, it goes on a bigger frame. So me being, based on my culture or my environment, you're supposed to kind of adapt to that. You know, so that's the interesting part that is funny about all of this. So with me, I will say that, men and women, I think men objectively look better with long hair because it shows biological health cues. It can frame the face better. And when a guy cuts his face, it's the most dramatic thing, just like how a woman does. And hair is literally linked to showing that it does not show any social cues or dimorphic trait. It's not anything dimorphic. It's literally a health cue. So the longer it is, depending how it is, it can improve your appearance because of the health cue. And showing health cues matter a lot, just like how it's muscle. But if you overdo it, it's like, okay, it's unnecessary. And it just frames the face, and there's a bunch of other things. Not saying that people need to have it all the time. It's just like unnecessary. And I feel like the medium length hair for everybody is kind of like, I don't want to say it's the dumbest shit, but people got to remember it is literally a stylistic thing. When we think it in the evolutionary sense, it's literally just a stylistic thing. There's not that much you could do with it. It's not too long. It's not too short. It's easy, forgettable. It's just a lot where it's just like, okay. And when you have longer hair, everybody has different hair color, different pigmentation. More things are more shown and more individuality. Your hair strand, everything. But that's what I'll say. And especially in this generation, you stand out when you have long hair. But not saying that people shouldn't buzz or have medium length hair. Just know that long hair, I believe it's objectively can make a man and for sure a woman better looking. But once in a while, it's okay. I have an indigenous background. And because I have an indigenous background, we pretty much believe that you're meant to have long hair, but when you cut it, it's a symbol of cutting like the bad spirits out or something like that. And I don't really practice that because I didn't grow up in that indigenous culture, but knowing that, it's like, well, I have heard of that. I knew someone that they said they cut their hair not because of the looks or whatever, but it's because, one, you got to try it once in your life, and two, it's like starting a new beginning. It is a new chapter. Hair holds memories. People do not realize having long hair, it takes a while. Hair holds memories. And another thing is, when you have short hair, it thins out. It gets smaller. You lose more hair, and it gets very, very, very short. But when you're young, it's very long and thick, and you can tell when it's longer. You can just see it more because it spots. It's literally a large portion of your face. So that's why hair is very important to me. And then you can literally, if you don't want it and you feel like it's making you feminine, you can style it so many ways. You can braid it, you can put it in a bun, or also put it in a man bun. You can do it so many other ways. And then you pull it back and you see your sexual dimorphism with seeing the hairline. And if it's square, it shows sexual dimorphism for the men. And then I would say, like, technically in a biological essence and like nature essence, which we're designed, that's how we're supposed to be attracted to see health and nature essence, is that we're supposed to have long hair and then we're supposed to lose it slowly when we get older. and that's how you know you got an older age, is because of that. It like shows a lot more. And then how you know your age too is that men are supposed to grow facial hair. So by a certain age, you have facial hair. Also, in nature, you're not really meant to have perfect flaws or non-perfect flaws. We're meant to have scars. Men, like when you watch the Nature Blood Tribal videos, they have scars. They have a missing tooth. That's what it is. I'm not saying lose your tooth. That would be a little too much. But scarring or certain things can be more deemed as attractable. I'm not saying lose a tooth. I mean, it would be unique in a sense. But I feel like it also would hurt your looks in a way. Because just because something's unique won't always be deemed as beautiful. There's still principles behind it. And because of that, you want to find something that's unique that would be deemed beautiful, or would just fit, or would be easy to harmonize with. But if it's just like hard all the time, like you can't really do it, then it's like, is it worth it? So in nature, yeah, that's why men get eyebrow slits. That is a form of literally, like, I'm not gonna say it's a dimorphic trait, but it gives an edgy look, and having an edgy look as a man in general literally stems from historical times back then. Men are supposed to be more like rugged. Women are meant to be more soft. That's just how it is. I'm not saying a man can't be, which I feel like the newer terms, which is very bad because of dimorphism, they say pretty this, pretty that. No, it's because our hormones are fucked. They're supposed to be handsome. Use the word handsome. And when I mean handsome, you have very good bone structure, good facial symmetry, all that. And the thing is, when we look at people and we're like, oh, we need to look this or that and that guy and, to be handsome, we're going off the wrong footing and the wrong way. If you want to look like that or whatever, you have to go off by age. Every age of showing dimorphism is different. When you're a kid, having muscle literally doesn't matter, because that's not a dimorphic thing. You're not at the biological or the mind capacity to really care about that. You're a kid. In a biological sense, in an evolutionary sense, you're getting still taken care of. It's when you hit teenage years, then you should put on more muscle or put on muscle, because you're already at that sense where, if you were in your tribe, right, you would be learning how to do stuff on your own, and you would be more capable of doing stuff on your own. So you would be building yourself during the years. And then when you get as a certain age, especially outside the teens, you would be already well developed and you're an adult. You're grown. And your body's almost at its full peak state. And during that time, just like by then, facial hair is usually the last part. I mean, for some people, maybe if you're an early bloomer, it's different. But so when you're young, you have your long hair or whatever hair you have, but you have hair, you have youthful skin, you're a little kid, you're small, and you have no dimorphic features, and you're just well balanced and healthy. Then you evolved into, when you get to a teen, you have dimorphic trait, everything is trying to balance each other out and grow together, and then you hit your dimorphic trait, and then facial hair comes in. And you still have your hair, right? That's how it is back then. You have very long hair. You keep your long hair until old age. Or unless something happens or you have to cut it or whatever the case is, whatever is going on, it's more of an environmental thing or a social thing than it really is anything else. But facial hair is really a show of sexual dimorphism and, age when it comes in. So when that comes in, that's when it shows that you've hit your max, and you maintain that. I'm not saying you needed to get it really thick or whatever, but you maintain that. And the funny thing is, you need to adapt. The whole thing with looks, people think you find your peak looks and that's all that matters. No, your body, you have to adapt with time with it. You have to adapt with time with it. There is a beauty and a Goldilocks rule for everything. Nature has set stone way before we have set stone with it. So the whole thing is, the problem is that everybody's trying to fight certain things, but it's not like that, and it's not supposed to be like that, you know? So the whole thing is like, come on, let's be realistic. And actually being big or having no eyebrow slit or no facial cuts or whatever is actually a sign of your nepo baby, and you are actually praised more. Actually, it's a sign for more women than anything. If a woman doesn't have a scar and a woman doesn't are well soft and delicate and they're covered and they're perceived and presented as the most softest thing in the world, men are more attracted to that. That's why veils make women more beautiful. But men, like, I'm not saying men have to be orgs or whatever, but with time, the thicker the facial hair grows, and you look at Chris, like, for an example, the best way to put it, you can look at any actor, Brad Pitt or Chris Hemsworth, and you just see with time the attractiveness, and they age with it, Or look at the guy who played Quicksilver from the Avengers. He didn't have one look all the time. You have to mature with the facial structure and your body and your bones and everything, because that's how it works. You develop with time, and things change with your body with time. Everything also declines at a certain time, and then that's when your people take over. And then like that, you can't beat the process of nature. You only fix whatever you're lacking, and that's the whole point of doing stuff. But biologically, there are principles and everything. Life has already determined it before it gave you the genetics or the opportunity to live. All you're doing is playing life game. Life isn't playing your game. That's the biggest misconception. We're literally borrowing time from the world, and the world is not borrowing time from us. So that's the big thing. And if you want to extend your looks with time, when you're young, and I'm telling it to the young people, when you can grow facial hair, have facial hair. When you're at your peak state, like 25, because I'm telling this for the people who grow facial hair way younger. I wouldn't have facial hair yet. But if you're at the age 25, grow facial hair. It's a sexual dimorphism cue. And clavicular or other people are going to be like, oh, no, don't do that. It's literally a sexual dimorphism cue. Women can't really grow facial hair. Not really. It's peach fuzz. And it's not as dense and thick and whatever. It's a male dimorphic thing. Keep it. It shows. Just like how men should get broader, more heavier, more denser when they get older. When you're young, you're lean. And the thing is, you have to mature or grow with it. You can't just stay there one time. You can try to prolong it, but you really can't. And unfortunately, everything is a young man's game. I can see why people don't want to do it, but when you get older, things just, you don't have a choice. And it looks weird if you're trying to fight the human nature. If there is a way we can prolong it, great. Prolong your biological cue. Prolong everything else. Do it, prolong it as much as you can. But there is a peak state where there's a certain age where that's your best, that's the prime. Try to prolong the prime as much as you can. Because when that day goes, just embrace that time, the age, because it's like you're no longer in the game. Just live. Like, Brad Pitt shouldn't be worrying about his appearance too much. Yeah, worry about it always, or health, care about it. But don't be thinking you're in competition or you're in game with other young men. No, your time is up. You had the world at the palm of your hands. Enjoy whatever time you have left on the world. Like, you don't have to compete. You've won. You settled. That's the whole thing about, oh, I lose my looks, I get sad, whatever. It sucks. But think at the end of the game, you have kids. You have your partner. You've won. You did everything that you needed to do on Earth. And your fucking nature selection and reproduction, whatever. You won. You get to be free and relaxed. You don't have to play the game anymore. You're done. So our whole point of young is to compete so we can mate, build the life that we need to build, that nature's intended, and then after when that's done, you enjoy yourself if you can, if you make it that long. And plus, sometimes we're not meant to live that long. But the whole point is prolonging the youth, do what we need to do, and yeah. And when we lose that, fucking embrace what you got. We're not meant to be stagnant. Everything in life needs a balance. That's what I'll say. Think about it. Long hair is not rugged. It's pretty a soft, delicate thing. But buzz cut's rugged. But if you pair a buzz cut with a beard, it can be too much, especially when it's a big beard. But you get a long hair with a big beard, it softens it. It shows the little beauty of the hair. It shows the guy's very hairy too. But it shows a guy with a hair and a guy with a beard. You know, a bearded guy. And then bam. And just because you have more doesn't mean it makes it better. It's all about grooming and finding what's best for you and the person. If it's patchy, no point of having body hair or whatever. Cut it. Or facial hair. But if it's thick and dense, good. But if it's too much on the body, cut it. It's all about a balance. Finding a perfect balance for you. Everything. Everything should be tailored to you and find that balance and what works. Just like how a copy and paste, which is objective principle, and then a subjective, which is the uniqueness of you. Not everybody prefers, like me, my hazel eyes mixed with a little green in them. Or the dirty blonde hair. Not everybody prefers that. Or the medium set contrast that I have. It's almost low. Nobody always prefers that. Some people get hypnotized by high contrast. It's all about finding and tailoring shit to you. And you're not meant to be the perfect human on earth. That's the one misconception that people fail to realize. They're trying to be like, oh, I need to be perfect, or I need to be this, or I need to be that. No, our whole point is having gifts, having our edge, and our whole point with the looks is to reproduce. That's it. Forget about perfect. Forget about all that. The thing is, we turn looks into a competition. But the problem with having looks as a competition is that it's not a single metric thing. It would be different and be like, oh, who's the fastest man in the world? That's a single easy competition. But to say like, he's the best looking in the world. You can narrow and display how attractive someone is, but to say like, oh, they're best looking, whatever, or whatever the case is, it's not realistic. It's not, because it's not a single determined thing. It's not a metric that you can really evaluate. You can explain why someone's attractive, but to say they're the best or superior, that would have to agree upon every single body, and it would have to show and some type of affirmation of it, and it would just have to have so much factors. So as of right now, you can't really say anything about that, but there is a lot of truth and a lot of science and a lot of objective, more than it is with subjective. But that's what I'll say. So find that balance. Find that work. So peace out, guys.